What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron, and today we're going to talk through my top 6 must-buy trade targets for Week 7 of the fantasy football season. We have about 36 to 48 hours between now and NFL football on Sunday, which should give you enough time to work the lines and get a deal done if you'd like to. We're going to talk through some buy highs, some buy lows, really any type of buy, any type of player you should be targeting based on your situation between, whether you're 4-2, 6-0, 2-4. We have something for the entire spectrum of teams. So without further ado, let's not waste any time. If you enjoy, make sure to get down below, subscribe, leave a like. Let's go.
Stones, like this froze, ice cold, ice around my body like I'm frozen. She gon' let me.
Now, I do want to say we're working our way back to some normalcy here. Like I've said in every video I've done the past couple weeks, the basement has been getting stripped down, has been getting worked on. It seems like we're close. I would imagine we're going to have one more week of being weird, week 8. I think by week 9, we'll be back on our normal schedule because I like to get this video out either Wednesday, Thursday. Then we have our stats and starts videos we do on Friday plus a stream. It's been tough to maintain that just with how the basement has been recently. I do appreciate you guys have just been very understanding and not Ron, what the hell is going on? But trust me, I'm trying. I will say as well, I am making my number one priority right now as making video. I don't have access to the camera the entire day because sometimes there'll be somebody down here or something will be getting done. But behind the scenes over on the Patreon, patreon.com/Ron Stewart, everything is still good to go there in terms of weekly rankings, waiver wire articles, rest of season rankings, all of that good stuff. And speaking of my rest of season rankings, which again you can find Patreon in the description and the comment section down below, is Kenneth Walker, man. I think that it's just time to stop the nonsense and buy high on Kenneth Walker because when I was doing my rest of season rankings, he ended up as my RB2. I had him as my RB1 for a second. Then I put Breece Hall ahead, but Kenneth Walker is my RB2 rest of season, and a lot of these trade value charts and places. So this is where we're going to be taking real trades from real leagues out there. FantasyCalc.com. You can see here Kenneth Walker is the RB7 rest of season behind Bijan. I'll just say straight up, if I could trade Bijan for Kenneth Walker plus, I would do that all day. And you look here on, this is a Reddit trade value chart from Peakton High School. Saquon 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He's the RB10 there. Again, he's my RB2, and here's why. He's not only my RB2, but he's actually somebody I put in my rest of season rankings overall as my 103. It's Jefferson ahead, it's Breece ahead, and then give me Kenneth Walker. That's how good he's been. And I know that that's going to scare a lot of people away, but he's just been really, really good. When we break down into talent metrics, so that's your production and your efficiency, and then usage. What kind of volume are you getting? He is elite across the board in terms of talent. He is at first in missed tackles forced per attempt, 35%. Tied for first in PFF rush grade, him and Derrick Henry at the top. Second in points per game. Third in fantasy points over expected per game. So that's just how much volume are you getting? How much are you overperforming that? He is third among all rushers in the NFL in exceeding his volume. Then on top of that, he is fourth in explosive run rate. So he has a lot of wiggle. He's breaking off long runs. He's being really, really efficient with his touches that he's been getting. And that's the new development here for Kenneth Walker. When we look at his usage metrics, he right now, and I'll pull this up here over on RotoViz, in terms of receiving expected points per game. So this is based on your volume, your targets, your ADOT, your catches, your red zone targets. Everything is put into one metric of, on a per game basis, how much of your volume is coming from the receiving game. And something that if you told me when Kenneth Walker was a prospect coming out of Michigan State, where I want to say he only had a career of 19. He 100% had under 20 catches over a 3-year career in college, and that was always the biggest holdup. This is someone who's a really, really special runner, but that could be a Nick Chubb, who Nick Chubb is really cool, but in PPR leagues, he's never been an RB1 overall scorched earth type of guy, right? He's much more of a useful player in real life or standard and I guess half PPR to a certain extent as well. But he's come out here in a completely different role. And that's why we were high on Kenneth Walker towards the end of the offseason, is because we got a lot of these quotes from Ryan Grubb, the new OC. He came from the Washington Huskies. He's now with the Seattle Seahawks. That he was just saying outright, I like Kenneth Walker catching passes. And it was hold on, because if you Kenneth Walker right now is almost I don't want to compare it to Nick Chubb because Nick Chubb obviously special player. I'm trying to think of a really good between the tackles rusher, but then you just add 60 plus catches on top of that. That is really, really scary. Let's say, 80% of Nick Chubb between the tackles, and then let's say Jonathan Taylor. If you gave Jonathan Taylor like a 70 catch pace, that like Jonathan Taylor's RB1 season, and you gave that a 70 plus catch rate pace, that is what Kenneth Walker is kind of messing around with here. Now, he's not getting the same volume between the tackles, but overall he's getting a lot of volume, and the receiving stuff is the most valuable stuff, as the PPR floor and ceiling is kind of what you live and die with. And then also with the usage, he's second in targets per game in the league, behind just Alvin Kamara with 6 targets per game. He's second in Fantasy Life. That's a new website created by Matthew Berry where they take into account this utilization report thing, also built and powered by like Dwayne McFarland and PFF, where they look through, your route percentage, your target percentage, your 2-minute drill, third down and distance stuff, you're inside the 5. And in terms of like an all-encapsulating metric of like how good is this guy's usage, he is second behind just Alvin Kamara there as well. And then he's third in overall expected points per game. So he's getting the volume. He's super efficient. He's, making big plays. He's scoring touchdowns. He's catching passes. Again, he's the RB2 in points per game right now, but he's flirting with like RB6 to 12 in a lot of these rest of season rankings. And I'm ready just to crown him as a top 3 running back rest of season, up there with, Saquon, Breece, Derrick Henry, whoever you want to put up there. He is in that same tier for me. And again, I just don't think these markets have caught up. Now, as always, with these, I try to give you guys real life trades. So I'm not just talking out of my ass and being like, go buy Kenneth Walker for a bag of chips. Let's see what he's actually going for. This is fantasycalc.com. Their trade database, it's pretty sick. We have it set for redraft. Kenneth Walker, 10 to 14 team leagues, 2 to 4 assets in the trade, half or full PPR. Let's see what they give us, because these are real trades happening in real leagues. I've had people comment before and be like, that was my trade. But let's see. Jahmyr Gibbs and an inconsequential piece for Kenneth Walker, yes. Josh Jacobs for Kenneth Walker, yes. Let's see if there's something more realistic here. If I could add a piece to McCaffrey and get Kenneth Walker, I would do that all day long. Very easily. Devontae Adams for Kenneth Walker, yes. Drake London for Kenneth Walker, easy yes for me. Amari Cooper and Jordan Mason for Kenneth Walker, easy. Adams and Pickens for Walker, that's easy. Marvin Harrison Jr. and Ramondre for Walker, that's easy. Devontae and Najee for Walker, that's easy. McLaurin and Pollard for Walker, yes. Let's find one more. I think that you guys got the gist of it. I mean, Gibbs for Walker plus, that's crazy. Trying to see. Is there anything that's like, man, I don't know if I would take that. But this is what I'm talking about, dude. If you can turn Bijan into Kenneth Walker plus, I would do that all day long. Even though Olave's looking shaky with the way the Saints are, but really a plus in any form, moving off Bijan for Walker, I absolutely would. I'm trying to see. I mean, like all of these, yeah, like Amari Cooper and Mason for Kenneth Walker, like very easily. Again, I just don't think the market has caught up to where he should be. To me, he is at the very worst a top 3 running back rest of season. Now, our second player that is a buy candidate for me is DK Metcalf. He is very easily my rest of season rankings, a top 12 wide receiver rest of season. Right now, he is the wide receiver 12 in expected points per game. So again, this is just volume, your ADOT, your targets, your red zone target share. 15.2 expected points per game is right there next to Amon-Ra St. Brown, which is great. And it's a really fun offense, right? We just talked about a Seahawk and Kenneth Walker. We talked about another Seahawk here. I just want pieces of this offense, man. They are 15th in EPA per play, so they're not super, super efficient just yet, but I think that could get clicking and get going. But they're first in pass rate. This is a up-tempo, pass-heavy, really fun offense I just want pieces in. And Metcalf has been fine all year. Again, he's been like fringe top 12 in usage. He's underperformed that a little bit, like a very easy wide receiver 2, though. And then you look at what he's done the past few weeks. He has had 2 back-to-back duds versus the Giants and the 49ers. He had 11 targets last week, just 3 catches. That's not going to stick. Now, he has Atlanta, Buffalo, Rams coming up. All games with massive shootout potential. And again, he's a top 12 wide receiver for me rest of season. So if I could buy him for cheap, if I needed a receiver, I absolutely would. Now let's see what he's going for over on Fantasy Calc. I have to guess it's probably a little bit of a chunk of change that he's going for. Devontae Smith and Najee feels steep. Yeah, like Amari Cooper and Alexander Madison I'm fine with. I will say as well, I don't have Amari Cooper in this video, but people are like going to go crazy about Amari Cooper in Buffalo. I would absolutely be selling him. Like I'll honestly give a small spiel on that right now, as I haven't really talked much about the trades that happened because we had top 10 lessons learned on Monday, and then all the trades happened on Tuesday. But Amari Cooper, I think he's a very good receiver in real life. He's flunking out of a lot of these metrics like ESPN open score and everything, but I will give him the benefit of the doubt that it seemed like he was just kind of quiet quitting on the Browns. But I think that he's much better for the Bills in real life, where the way that Joe Brady wants to run this offense is a lot of running the football, a lot of underneath like Dalton Kincaid screens and like Khalil Shakir out routes, and it just doesn't. Now you can absolutely say, well, he hasn't had a number one receiver. Well, last year he had Stephon Diggs, and when Joe Brady took over, Stephon Diggs, everyone thought that Stephon Diggs was washed because of it. So it's not an offense with Joe Brady that he like builds around this number one receiver, right? When he was back with the Panthers, he had DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, and Curtis Samuel, and all of them just hovered around like wide receiver 24. So I think that's what you're going to get with like Khalil Shakir, Kincaid, and Amari Cooper. I don't think any of them are going to be like monster league winners. I think that they're all going to be just fine. Like to me, Amari Cooper is just like I would just call him like a wide receiver 3 rest of season, like a back end wide receiver 3 where he's fine. But this team has been so comfortable just running the ball, taking stuff underneath, that I don't want to say that they signed Amari Cooper to be a decoy, but I think that's going to be a lot of what it is. Like you're going to have some monster plays where it's like a 60-yard touchdown. It's going to be fun, but week to week, I don't think it's going to be all that consistent to the point where his like points per game is not going to be all that pretty either. So there's going to be some highs, but there's also just going to be some, Amari Cooper run some wind sprints, get open 35 yards downfield, and we'll just take what we get underneath. That's just kind of what their MO has been. I'm open to it changing. I just don't think that Amari Cooper is, one, the needle mover that he used to be, and two, I just think that he's better for real life with this team than he is for fantasy. So we'll see how it works out, but that's just kind of the way that I see it from my point of view. Is there any other trades on here? Yeah, I mean, I would take, that's just, look, I love Nico Collins, but if I could get Metcalf and Mason for Nico Collins, I would do that all day. Ayuk and Javonte for Metcalf, probably not. Is there anything else that sticks out here? Montgomery for Metcalf, to me, that's like about the breaking point. That's the breaking point for me. If I was simply in a spot where I already had 2 really good running backs and I just need wide receiver, I would take Metcalf here. These are the kind of deals I would love to do. I don't know that these are really on the table, but if I could do a 2-for-1 for Metcalf and I give you like a fringe running back and a wide receiver who just popped off, I would take that all day. Mason and Chase Brown, I would probably also do for Metcalf, though I think that that's a lot closer than this number here is probably leading on. Now, I also wanted to sprinkle in a sell as we talk about these Seahawks, that I would be looking to sell JSN here. To me, you can actually see I'm actually getting exposed here with the ESPN. I have him in my home league. He has been very disappointing to anybody who doesn't have JSN. It's actually very funny. I was kind of like kicking the tires. I've talked about it before. I don't really make trades in my home league because I talk to you guys for a living, so anytime I make a trade, even if like I get killed, the talk of the town is Ron fleeced somebody, Ron's taking advantage of people. So I don't need an asterisk if I win a championship on, oh, well, Ron had this one trade where he took advantage of so-and-so. So I just don't make many trades. But if I was to make a trade, I would love to get JSN off of this team. He right now has been a massive disappointment. I liked him coming out of college. He's this fun, like, I'm trying to even think of like what a decent comp for him is, because it's not, he's a slot guy. It would kind of be like his ceiling is probably kind of what Chris Godwin's doing right now. But Chris Godwin's like bigger and more physical. That's the issue with JSN, is like he's not physical. He's like a possession slot guy. Like I say this with, all due respect. I have Josh Downs over him in both redraft and dynasty at this point. Josh Downs has the same role, but he's much better after the catch. He's much better at getting first downs, moving the chains, making people miss, like actually being dynamic. Whereas JSN's like, it's just not great. JSN right now has a 1.22 yards per out run, and he was damn near a face planter last year. He was at 1.32 yards per out run. So he's actually regressed in the efficiency department, and really all he's doing is he's just a beneficiary of this Ryan Grubb offense where they have the highest pass rate in the NFL. So targets just come his way, but it's like a very much like PPR scam. Like he's like 3 yards of average depth of target away from being Wan'Dale Robinson at this point in time, JSN. You look at his open score, it is literally bottom 5 in the NFL. It is, in terms of getting open, this is ESPN's metric of you getting open and creating separation. It is Mingo dead last, then Polk, then Greg Dortch, then Alec Pierce, then it's JSN. So it's just not great, At least Alec Pierce makes up for it by being a lead at the catch point. You can see the catch grade being higher there, but JSN just not, doesn't really give you anything. He's 11.8 He's at 11.8 points per game as the wide receiver 36. He's like a low-end wide receiver 3. He still has some hype around his name as like a young, ascending wide receiver. And if I could sell him, I just would. It's just uninspiring. I've completely lost hope when it comes to JSN. I liked him coming out. I gave him plenty of chances. Let's see. Is he going for anything good? Can you do like a 2-for-1? I mean, I don't think this is happening, but I mean, JSN for Ayuk, I absolutely would. If I needed a running back, I would do JSN for Ramondre, but I'm not crazy about it. I think I would take Pickens over JSN, but that one's actually really, really close. And I also don't like these deals much if I don't think it's a clear. Like, I have Pickens and JSN in the same tier, so I'd actually probably hold off on a deal like this. Let's see. These are the type of deals I'd be doing. I don't love Marvin Harrison Jr. At this point with the concussion and just kind of how this Cardinals offense has looked. But if I could take JSN, add Brian Robinson, then get to, instead of Marvin Harrison Jr., maybe I get to Cooper Kupp, or I get to Ayuk, or I get to T. Higgins. Anybody in that area, I absolutely would. Jason and Zach Moss for McLaurin, I would do that. Tyrone Tracy and JSN for Zay Flowers, I would as well. So just deals like this, like I would love to just add. I don't think you're going to get something like this, like JSN and Watson for Puka, but I do think take JSN, add somebody off your bench, and see what you can get in return. I'm trying to see if anything else sort of makes sense. I don't even really like Kamara right now, but I would do James Cook and JSN for Kamara. I think that's good. Yeah, JSN and ETN for Ayuk. That's what I'm talking about. This is the perfect representation of a JSN 2-for-1. Now, our next player we're going to buy is somebody that is on bye week right now, so he should be easy to acquire, especially if the guy who has Cole Kmet. I'll make sure I put it in the chapters as well, or at least I'll try to. Like, all of these are buys except for JSN. I just figured we talked about all those Seahawks. I might as well touch on JSN and where I'm at with him. But Cole Kmet's a huge buy for me because he's on bye, and if the guy who has him is like 2-4 and maybe using, I don't know, like Noah Fant in his tight end spot, go out there, see if you can get Cole Kmet, maybe give him your tight end, like something that comes to mind. Like if I could do Mark Andrews for Cole Kmet straight up, I would right now. I would. That's just where we're at. Cole Kmet, now I will say, this buy Cole Kmet section actually started as a Trey McBride's buy this morning. And then I looked into it, and I chickened out. All right, this is a stat I pulled from the morning. Zach Ertz left the Cardinals in Week 8 of 2023. Trey McBride has just 3 touchdowns in the 15 games since then. For comparison, Cole Kmet has 6 touchdowns over his last 15 games. Now, of course, touchdowns are random. There's a lot of variance at play. But at a certain point, you have to score touchdowns. When we look at his college resume, Trey McBride had 164 catches and just 10 touchdowns in college. That's pretty crazy for a tight end, probably the best player on his team. His final year, 90 catches and just 1 touchdown. So there's some questions of, is this his archetype? And then I also read into it, the Cardinals just aren't passing in the red zone either. The Cardinals are 28th red zone pass rate. So I just don't know that touchdowns are coming for. Like, that was going to be the whole point, right? We're through 5 weeks. Trey McBride's a top 5 tight end, and he hasn't even begun to start scoring touchdowns yet. Touchdowns are coming. Well, I come to you guys today, and I can't promise that touchdowns are coming. I think that, of course, he's going to score a couple, but this might be a situation where, like in college, he ends up with, 70-plus catches and like 3 touchdowns on the year and is fine, but not the tight end 1 overall. So I'd rather honestly go the cheaper route. And I think Cole Kmet can be had for super, super cheap. Again, he's not seen as one of the top guys. He's on bye this week, so he's easy to acquire here. And the thing about Cole Kmet is he's a good player, man. I've always been skeptical of Kmet, but I think he's really come on this year. He's 3rd in points per game. He's 4th in first downs per out run. So I know that a lot of his fantasy production is fueled by the touchdowns that he's scored, but he's not just a big play merchant. Like, he is moving the chains. For every route he runs, 9.6% of his routes end up in a first down. That is pretty nuts. Like, he is getting first downs on the routes that he runs. He's 5th in expected touchdowns, so it's not like his touchdowns are fluky. He's actually getting usage in the red zone, so that's huge. He's 7th in yards per out run, 7th in PFF receiving grade, 8th in Fantasy Life's usage score, 8th in expected points per game. And like I said at the bottom, I think he's good at football. So he's like top 8 in every metric. To me, he's top 8 rest of season tight end, where once you get past the top 5 of, Bowers, Kelsey, McBride, Kittle, and then I'm probably missing one. But, you got like Ingram up there. You got like a core 6, and then after that, I think that Cole Kmet has a good of case as anybody. Caleb Williams is only getting better. He's like establishing trust with Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet also was splitting routes early on in the season with Gerald Everett. They've now completely phased out Gerald Everett, and Cole Kmet's been above like 80% of the routes the last 2 games. So he is really rolling here. He has a connection with Caleb. I think he's a good player. He's scoring touchdowns. So if I could buy him for cheap, I got to think he's going for cheap. I was looking as well at this Reddit trade value chart, which again, you can take these with a grain of salt. I'm not saying that these are the end-all be-all, but I think it's a decent gauge on where we're at here. And you can see if we look at like just tight ends, it's Kelsey, Kittle, Bowers, McBride, Laporta. Then we go Jake Ferguson, Ingram, Kincaid, Njoku, Hawkinson. Then we go to Kraft, and we still have Cole Kmet below those guys. So I just think that that's nuts for a guy, who is like a top scoring tight end right now, playing well, running all the routes. So I would absolutely be looking to buy, because I think that some people that drafted Cole Kmet probably did it as their tight end too, right? Their first tight end was probably one of those guys like Evan Ingram, who maybe now is coming on, and they don't need Cole Kmet anymore. Maybe they had drafted Mark Andrews, now they're sold on Mark Andrews, or Pitts, or any of these top guys, really. I think especially in home leagues, you see guys like they could take Trey McBride as their tight end 1, and then still take Kmet later just because they want to have 2 of everything. So if you can go and pluck Cole Kmet off a roster, I think you absolutely should. If you have tight end problems and you're out here, starting a Noah Fant or starting a Cade Otton on a regular basis, go see what you can do in terms of acquiring Kmet. This is what he's going for right now over on Fantasy Calc. So what, Kmet and McLaurin for Swift? Oh, all day. Would I trade my Kraft straight up for Kmet? That's such a coin flip that I'd probably chill. I would sell likely for Kmet in a heartbeat. Amari Cooper for Addison Kmet, I would do that. Wow, I just had JSN as a sell. Would I do JSN straight up for Kmet? If I had enough wide receivers I trusted through my flex and my tight end 1 was like Noah Fant on a weekly basis, I probably would. Rico Dowdle for Kmet, that's an easy one. Wow, Kelsey for Jaden Reed and Cole Kmet. I would, but Kmet's by no means a sell. That's just a hell of an offer. Let's see. Kareem Hunt for Cole Kmet and Dearness Johnson. I would chill on that. For Jerome Ford for Kmet, I mean, this is what we're talking about. Like, can you just throw something for free and get Cole Kmet? Tomorrow Douglas for Kmet, sure. But that's what I'm talking about. Like, you should be able to get him for really, really cheap. Like, I'm not saying you can do this, but I'm just saying, like, this is an example of like somebody who just is worth nothing. The guy just doesn't even know what's on his hands with Kmet. Lazard for Kmet. I mean, that's just nuts. Does anything else stick out? That's the same deal as earlier. Not with Jaden Reed, though. McBride for Kmet and Addison. I wouldn't. That one's close, but I wouldn't. Pittman for Kmet all day. Pittman for Kmet, I would do that in a heartbeat. But I think that kind of outlines it. Again, I'm not trying to trade anything. Like Pittman's probably the highest I would sell for Kmet, but I would. After that, let's talk about a running back here. We're going to get a little bit deeper because I know a lot of you guys don't want just like super high-end buys, which I think Kmet falls into that category. And next up, let's talk about Tank Bigsby. I think that people are very low on him after what happened last week, right? It was pretty much like wheels up, put him in your lineup, even with ETN. He's banged up. Who cares? And then he goes out there and he lays an egg. And not only lays an egg, but gets out-touched by Dearness Johnson. Now, the important thing to note is that when you look at Hayden Wink's chart here, Hayden Winks has a really, really cool article he does every single week on Underdog Network. It's a website, underdognetwork.com. It's where like pretty much like his stats versus film video that they do, him and Josh, which is amazing. The like article form, at least on Hayden's end with like the stats part, is on Underdog Network, and it's, he just puts all of this there. And you can see here, it's the RB situational usage. So you can see when these guys go out there, and they get a snap or a carry or whatever. If they get used on the goal line, he has certain indicators for that as well. And you can see Tank Bigsby is out there in the beginning of the game with ETN. Then Dearness Johnson mixes in. Then ETN's out there, Dearness Johnson, then Tank Bigsby. Tank Bigsby getting used all around like the 30-minute mark. And then from 45 minutes into the game and later, right, and you can see it trails off by in-game winning percentage, right? So once the game is out of hand and it's the fourth quarter, Dearness Johnson just played the rest of the game. Now, it's certainly worth noting that Tank Bigsby like fumbled a punt return just as the fourth quarter started. Maybe this was a punishment, but I also think that the game was just out of hand and it was just like, screw it, we're giving Dearness Johnson the touches. So Dearness Johnson Dearness Johnson outsnapped Tank Bigsby by a lot, but he only outtouched him. I think he outtouched him like 8-5 or something. I don't know. I didn't mean to say outtouch him, but what I meant to say is that 5 of Dearness Johnson's 8 total touches came in the fourth quarter. So again, he had 8 touches total. 5 of them came in the fourth quarter for Dearness Johnson when the game was completely over. Let me see for Tank Bigsby. How many touches? Yeah, he had 7, right? So Tank Bigsby has 7 touches to Dearness Johnson's 8 in this game, and Dearness Johnson had way more snaps. Everyone was freaking out about it, but again, you can see by this chart, like a lot of that happened in the fourth quarter in terms of like the crazy split here. What needs to be understood with Tank Bigsby is he is the destroyer of efficiency charts. This is a chart from F-Ball Insights, or a great account on Twitter. You can see this is an efficiency chart, right? You can see like yards before contact, yards after contact. He is in a world of his own right now. He is super explosive. He is a very, very efficient running back between the tackles right now. Now, of course, his biggest holdup is him in the receiving game, but this is the perfect matchup this week. So if you wanted to buy Tank Bigsby low and then shove him right in your lineup, like this is a play where if you have a running back on bye and you need an RB, or if you just need a running back help in general, you buy him low, instantly put him in your lineup, because the Jaguars, after getting killed by the Bears, right, that's why you had the Dearness Johnson usage like that at the end, because the game was just out of hand, but they have a game. They're in London. They have, I guess you could say, like kind of the rest advantage where they haven't had to do the, transatlantic flight or whatever. They've just been chilling in London. You have them as 5.5-point favorites to the Patriots, who allow the 6th most fantasy points to opposing running backs. So it's the perfect setup. They are favorites. They should have a lead. It's not going to be, pass catching, PPR scam stuff to Dearness Johnson. It should be between the tackles work for Tank Bigsby. ETN is also out in this game. So when we look at what Tank Bigsby goes for on the open market, I wonder what, like, are people still going to treat him as just like a waiver wire fodder type of guy? Because that'd be my hunch. Wow, Bucky for Tank Bigsby. I just don't like these deals in general. They're like, similar archetype guy. I don't know what that's solving for either team. Brian Robinson for Tank and Juju. No, I cannot do that. Tank for Lad, or Lad for Tank. No. But yeah, like Rodgers for Tank Bigsby all day. Amari Cooper for Jordan Mason and Tank Bigsby, I would. I actually kind of like Amari Cooper as a sell right now. I will say, like, if you need running back help, I'm certainly fine giving up on Wicks to get Bigsby. Hopkins for Bigsby, that's easy. I mean, this is insane. Michael Wilson for Ray Davis and Tank Bigsby, give me that. What else? I'll try to find one more. Let's see. Did I click that correctly? Yeah. Oh, dude, give me JSN for Ladd McConkey and Tank Bigsby. That is perfect. I don't know how that can happen, but Ladd McConkey and JSN, to me, I have them in like the same tier rest of season, and then Tank Bigsby is the cherry on top in that deal. Now, moving on from Tank Bigsby, again, I told you guys, we're going to get deep in here. Next up, we have Rome Odunze. So this is, deep in the bag. He should be super, super cheap. And if you just want a cheap wide receiver, like if you just have a team right now, or let's say like your wide receiver core, there's a lot of teams out there like this where their wide receiver core is fine, but they're starting like Wandale and JSN, and like maybe their wide receiver 1 is like Terry McLaurin. So you have a team where your wide receivers are fine, but you don't have like true upside right now, like league winning upside down the stretch. That's when I would take on a rookie receiver, because we know how this works. I mentioned this way too much, but as the season goes on, rookie wide receivers get more and more points per game. As the season goes on, they find efficiency, they find their groove, and this is the perfect time to buy low on a Bears receiver, as Caleb Williams is really turning the corner. This is from Football Insights here. His cumulative expected points added. So expected points added is just how good you are in terms of offensive efficiency, right? Are you getting first downs? Are you getting touchdowns? Are you moving the chains? Are you, like, expected points added from its core is just, okay, you have the ball to 50, you're expected to score a field goal. So if you go down from the 50 to score a touchdown, that is plus 4 points over expected, right? You're expected for a field goal, you score a touchdown, that's 4. That's way oversimplifying it. I don't know what you're implied for from the 50, but that's just how it works. And then they even get that down on a per play basis to, from 2nd and 7, you're expected to get a first down. And then if you go over that, then you get a fraction of expected points added. So that's how they do it. And you can see here, he was on this downward trajectory, like Trubisky, like Fields. And then he's really turned this corner. Now, of course, he's played the Jaguars defense. He's played a couple of bad, he's played the Colts defense. He's played the Rams defense. People love to point that out. But you play who's in front of you, right? He played Carolina. You play who's in front of you. And I don't think, if you watch the games, I'm not a film expert myself, but I've been watching a lot of the QB school, and he's just, everything is clicking right now for Caleb. Everything is clicking. The offense looks better. Like, I mean, shocking quote that the players had to convince Shane Waldron to make a 15-play script open games with. But I think the offense is getting better. I think Caleb Williams is getting better. And I just want to bet on pieces in this passing offense altogether. Now, on top of that, the player himself, Odunze, has been struggling in the rookie receiver report. I've been a little bit down on him, but also I actually look back in time at like my rookie receiver reports through the first 6 weeks before, and it's not all that uncommon to see a player completely turn the corner. Dontavion Wicks, of course, much smaller sample last year. He was at like 0.98 yards per out run through 6 weeks, and then of course he became the yards per out run darling by the end of the year, where he was up over 2 yards per out run. So there's a lot of season left here. And Matt Harmon, actually, from Reception Perception, he charted Rome Odunze's week 1 and 2 and pretty much came away, it says relative performance right on. Pretty much came away with a guy that he had as a top 10 pick, a Jamar Chase, Marvin Harrison Jr. level prospect, someone that reminded him of Devontae Adams. These are all words from Matt Harmon, who I respect greatly when it comes to receivers. Right on means that all of those expectations are still there. He looked good. I don't want to read this entire blurb, but what does he say here? He had like an 80%. Yeah, so Odunze's work off line of scrimmage has been notable through 2 weeks with an 80% success rate versus press. He said some miscues at the catch point, but we know that's something that was a strength of him in college, so there's no need to panic in that regard. It seems like he's getting open at a high rate. I'm watching a lot of these, again, these QB school. I'm telling you guys, if you haven't already, check out the QB school. For someone like me who I can't turn on the tape and say, well, yeah, they're actually going for a flood concept here where he's gonna roll out and there's something, there's a flag on the backside and he's looking post to corner to underneath and he's reading high, like, you know what I mean? I'm not doing that from my desk here in the basement, but he does, and he's breaking down like what's going on in coverage, and routinely Rome Odunze is wide open, looking really, really good on film. I just think it's going to be a matter of time until that happens. Now, I will say you're not buying Odunze because of this, because I'd say, if I'm setting odds on it, I'd say like 5 to 10% chance it happens, but Keenan Allen could be one of these guys. If the Chiefs send the right offer, Keenan Allen goes to the Chiefs and fills that Rashee Rice role, that wouldn't be all that crazy, but they did just trade for Keenan Allen, so they're probably not going to trade him. But I'm just saying, like, something could get shaken up here. We could also see just a flippening. We've also seen, to start the year, Keenan Allen was hurt a bunch. So I would just rather bet on the chaos of an NFL season with the talent of Rome Odunze attached to the talent of Caleb Williams at this point. So I do like him a lot. And then also coming off this bye, a little post-bye rookie bump, he has the Washington Commanders, who allow the 5th most fantasy points to wide receivers, and he could just get right back on track right out the gate. Now, in terms of what's getting traded for with Odunze, let's see. What do you got to pay to get Odunze? I can't imagine it's anything. Like, this should be somebody you should be able to get for free at this point. Wow, Algier for Odunze and Brooks, sign me up. He's somebody where if you make a deal, just throw him in as a sweetener. This is like Trey Tucker, Braylon Allen for Rome Odunze, yes. Again, if you're like in a spot where you're struggling at receiver, like you don't need a Braylon Allen on your bench. So if you can turn a Braylon Allen or an Algier into Rome Odunze, I absolutely would. Yeah, like Jacoby Myers for Rome Odunze, get out if you're with that. Again, if you're fine at running back, if you want to do Jonathan Brooks for Rome Odunze, I think you absolutely can. Yeah, miss me with this. Jerry Jeudy for Rome Odunze for sure. Kamani Vidal for Rome Odunze for sure. Sutton for Rome Odunze, I would as well. Let's find one more. Yeah, what are we talking about? Rashad Bateman for Rome Odunze, Jerry Jeudy for Rome Odunze. I would do all of those. I'm trying to see if anything else sticks out here. This is crazy. There's no way anyone's doing this, but Mark Andrews for Odunze plus, I would as well. Again, just someone that's like a nice upside receiver to have on your bench. And if you don't need the upside swings at running back, whether that's like, your Braylon Allens, your Algiers, your Zach Charbonnets, I don't hate turning one of those into Rome Odunze. Again, if you are fine at running back but struggling to see how your wide receiver room finds any upside down the stretch, Rome Odunze could be a league winner in the fantasy playoffs. Now, our last player here is, again, we're getting cheap. This is bargain bin stuff here, but if you look at your lineup right now and your RB's hurt, maybe you're 2-4 and Jahmyr Gibbs is on bye and it's a must-win game, that's when you go out and you get Antonio Gibson. To me, he's a very nice buy because I think that, last week it was supposed to be Antonio Gibson week, right? Ramondre goes down, everyone started him, and he puts up a dud. But he had 17 opportunities in a game versus the Texans, who are a great defense, allowing the 26th most fantasy points to running back. So a really tough matchup, a really good defense, really good defensive front. I think we're going to get a much better option here. Seems like Ramondre Stevenson can't go again. And then we have a matchup versus a Jaguars team that is allowing the 8th most fantasy points to running backs and are allowing a 22% target share to running backs, 4th highest target share allowed in the NFL. That is per JJ Zacharyason's data dump. Now, on top of that, shout out to Pat Corrine. He does a walkthrough every single week where he looks through all the matchups. And I thought this was interesting. He said Gibson hasn't been bad when looking at season-long sample. He's in the RB2 mix if Stevenson misses. You can just see here, he is in the 88th percentile for rush yards over expected per attempt, 81st percentile in rushing yards over expected per game, 84th percentile for success rate, 82nd percentile for elusiveness rating, 89th percentile for targets per out run, 93rd percentile for yards per out run. So that's all really good stuff. Like, he's been fine. This should be a much easier matchup versus the Jaguars. And to me, I have him as my RB21 this week in my weekly rankings. So if you want to just get a free RB2 that shouldn't be all that expensive, I would look no further than Antonio Gibson, especially if he's on the bench of the guy who owns him. Like, let's say the guy who has him, already has 2 running backs in and has a good team. Go pluck off Gibson from his squad if you can. Let's see what he's going for here over on Fantasy Calc. Again, this one should be free. Like, this one should be absolutely free. Yeah, like, lock it for Gibson, go right ahead. Bub memes for Gibson, go right ahead. Wow, Sean Tucker Gibson, I can't go there. That's really close. I don't want to give up Sean Tucker right now, though. Let's see. Keon Coleman for Gibson in the Denver Broncos defense. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that one. Let's see. So, yeah, like some of these, I will say, the trade database isn't perfect. There's definitely some wonky trades. Yeah, like Zamir White for Antonio Gibson. Give me that all day. Rashad Bateman for Gibson, yes. Alec Pierce for Gibson, yes. If I had any kind of backup quarterback like Kirk Cousins or Aaron Rodgers, someone who's not getting used on my bench, and I need a win this week, go right ahead. Jalen Tolbert for Gibson, go right ahead. Let's find one more. Yeah, like Jeremy McNichols, get out of here. Again, like something where you just need someone this week. Go try and pluck Gibson. Again, if you just need somebody for this week, he has a good matchup. He should get touches here against a really light Jaguars defense that the Bears just ran wild on. But that is going to do it for us today. Again, as I'm kind of working through the weird basement stuff, again, it does annoy me because I want to make sure that I show up for you guys. This is content. We had all this rush in the offseason. It doesn't sit right with me that it feels like we're kind of losing steam here in week 7, but it's just kind of the situation that it is. It just wouldn't really fix anything to like move all my equipment and go either upstairs or go to like an office space, because then that just adds more time and more moving things around. And, it sucks. There just is no real easy fix right now. But I don't know. I don't want to keep rambling about the situation here. So I do want to say as well, I made it clear in my post on YouTube, do not feel bad. It's not a big deal. Like, insurance is covering most of it. It's just simply a massive, massive inconvenience as I'm trying to get videos out to you guys. That's really all it is, in terms of it messes around with like my scheduling and when I can get a video up and when I can record, and having to work around things and like not having the lights that, we got this whole new setup for. It's just annoying. It's been bothering me, but like I said, expect by like week 9 things to be back on track. Where like week 9, we should have a top lessons learned out on time, a waiver wire video out on time, a trade targets video on either Wednesday or Thursday, a starts and stats on Friday, and stream, and just back to regular scheduled programming. Like, I can't stress enough how much I would love that. It's just kind of been a tough couple weeks here. But like I said, by like week 9, we should be right back in the sweet spot. So just bear with me here, fellas, while you can. As always, all of my stuff, my weekly rankings, rest of season rankings, all of that will be on the Patreon. If you just want, what is Ron thinking for this week, that'll all be there. But if you can't support there, I do just appreciate you guys watching these videos, supporting all of that. And I will see y'all in the next one.
Stones, like this froze, ice cold, oh.